I want to talk about something that's actually been a cheat code for me. And I have a friend that I owe credit to because this conversation started for me years ago, and really exploring it for years. It's crazy. It's my first time ever talking about it. I probably said it in the video, don't even remember, and for those people who work out, understand lactic acid. Lactic acid builds up as you lift weights, as you're exercising, as you're working out, and ultimately you could lift 30 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, and then eventually your arms are going to get tired because of the lactic acid that builds up, and ultimately they're just muscles, so they get tired. They are to be worked. You have capacity to work them, but your body can only do but so much. Your body can only take on but so much. The lactic acid does eventually decrease. That allows us to work out again the next day, that next week. And the beautiful thing about it is, just because you're tired doesn't mean you're done. It just may mean you're done for that day. Now, with everything I just said, think about that with your brain. It can only take but so much. Now, thank God the way we've been crafted, our brains have been wired a certain way. Our bodies have been wired a certain way. The entire science behind our body is really beautiful, what we can take on, what we have capacity for. And then you incorporate the grace of God. That's God's empowering presence to equip us to do whatever it is He's calling us to do. It's really beautiful what our brains can do. I'm a huge fan of the brain and the function of the brain. But let's talk about things like memory, concentration. Like, there are legitimate parts of your brain that you need. Not going to get too deep into the functions of the brain, but I want to just look at the brain for a moment as a muscle, okay? And how you didn't do anything today, but you're tired. See? It's only 3 o'clock, but you're tired. You just simply had a conversation, but you feel drained. You're getting older, and you remember when you was 20, when you was 15, when you was 18, you was able to, but now you're 30 and it seems like you're 40 and it seems like you're 50, 60, and it seems like you can't do what you used to do mentally. Parts of your brain, as you even develop, there's certain things you can't even take on mentally. You don't want to take on mentally. There's parts of your brain where you now understand you don't have no room for things that don't bring you peace, convenience, safety. Like, you have no room for drama. Like, your brain can only take on but so much. And see, when you're young, you go through all this stuff. Your brain's being developed. But once you get to that place where you're getting older, watch this. Your brain is getting tired. The older you get, not saying that you lose function, but your brain is getting more and more tired. Tired of change, tired of adapting and adjusting, tired of decision making, tired of navigating through trauma and wounds and heartbreak, having to navigate through just thinking sometimes can get overwhelming. You want to do absolutely less, okay? Getting things like decision making fatigue, like you are fatigued, and it comes earlier and faster, so things have to be very, very convenient for you because you're tired. Don't nobody feel like pushing? Like, okay, can we make this thing simple, okay? This is what I've learned. This helps us, one, become more compassionate for people. If they glitching a little bit, their brain is tired, okay? You know, when you look at your parents or people that you want to change, remember their brain is tired. And after a certain age, you know how people be like, oh, they stuck in their ways? Or honestly, it has some truth to it. The brain is really tired. The brain is probably exhausted. And a lot of that change, you know, you really want to aim for that when you're younger, when your brain is either developing or you're, you know, in your 20s and your 30s and in your 40s. And 30s and 40s gets a little tricky unless you're in therapy and you're actively doing your homework assignments. But it gets hard to change after a while because your brain is tired. So ultimately, you can have compassion for people who seem like they just don't seem to get it. They probably don't. Their brain is tired. I want to say this, though, on a serious note. This generation and the generations to come are consuming things at a high level. There's so much stuff being thrown in their faces. They're under so much pressure. I mean, it's crazy. If I was outside looking in and I was like from heaven and I was watching, I would say this generation, they're under too much pressure from society's norms, from cultural norms, from their parents, from what their friends post, from what their friends are up to, what people are accomplishing apparently on social media. They're comparing themselves. They have timelines they made for themselves. They're moving at a pace that they don't have grace for. They're taking on too much. They're overwhelmed with where they are in life because they feel like they should be further. They're listening to people tell them what they should and should not be doing instead of listening to God. It's so much. It's so much. Like, it's crazy what's going on in this generation. But because of what this generation and generations to come are taking on, especially emotionally, mentally, financially, physically, spiritually, everybody's tired. Everybody's tired. And here's what I want to say. The only way to cure being extremely exhausted or tired is just to simply rest. But I want to say it like this. Rest is productivity. Someone was like, yo, Al, like, what you up to? What you got going? Da, 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 da. And I was like, I'm just resting. They're like, oh, yeah, no, I feel you, feel me. You got rest, so you could. I was like, for sure. For sure. My strength has always been that I actually just chill out. I'm not looking for more to do. I'm not looking for something next, my next big move. I'm not doing that. My sister's really big on this. I will cancel anything if I need to. It's nothing wrong making a mistake. Just be bold enough to say, hey, I'm actually going to not do that. I don't have the grace for it. It's not within the pace that God has for me. I'm actually going to slow down. I'm actually going to be more conservative here, more realistic here. I'm going to simplify these things here. I've found that when you rest and see rest as productivity, this will help you not be as tired. It's interesting because most of the pressures that we're under, we added to ourselves. Like some beautiful truths that I've learned and I've loved and I've adopted for myself. There's really no one in front of you. This race is between you versus you. The only thing behind you is your past. The only thing in front of you is the finish line. But there is nobody else on your path. It's just you and God. And you have to finish your race. But there's no pressure because you're not behind nobody. You're not in competition with nobody, and no one's in competition with you. Freedom. There is no such thing as you're supposed to have this by this age. You're supposed to be married by this age. You're supposed to have this home by this age. You're supposed to accomplish this by this age. That does not exist. These timelines we've added to ourselves, or we're just naturally comparing ourselves to other people based off our own inward struggles. That's a pressure that we created. There is no timeline. It does not exist. There are some biological factors that play in. There are some environmental factors that play in and age factors that play into life. Yes, but there is no timeline that you have to be strict to. It's literally at the pace that God has for you that you are to move, to relieve you for some pressure. Very important. Here's a really big one. If they didn't say it, that this is their expectation of you, it's not an expectation at all that you are responsible to fulfill. Unless they verbally say, hey, these are my expectations. Expectations unspoken are not real expectations, especially if you want there to be healthy communication and relationships. So you say, but Al, I feel like they expect so much from me. Here's my advice. You can talk to them and say, hey, by any chance, can you give me a list of expectations you have for me in this particular area? Whether that be romantically, occupationally, with your friends, with your family, and let them tell you. And you can also say, hey, I just want to clarify, do you expect these things from me? Just want to make sure that we're in agreement. If they say no, freedom from the unnecessary weight that you added to yourself because you thought they were expecting this. And if they say yes, and it's something that you don't think you can fulfill, even if you try to fulfill it in a season of people pleasing, you could be honest with them and say, hey, I'm not going to lie. I might have done that in the past, and I'm realizing I can't really keep that up, especially if I want to stay healthy. And so for me to be healthy and really preserve this relationship and make sure it's long lasting, can we revisit that expectation and create something more realistic for me? Because I do want to show up, but I want to show up in a way that I really can show up in a healthy way. That's so important. No pressure from unspoken expectations. There's so many people, my parents, my school, my job, my ministry, my friends, my partner, they're under expectations that they've made up in their mind they have to fulfill. But no one said anything. And that's normal. Communicate. You're going to relieve yourself from so much stress. I will say, when you find contentment, you're going to relieve yourself from so much pressure. You're going to realize you're exactly where you need to be if you've been following God and doing what he's calling you to do. You're going to start peeping that his instructions, like the word says, are not burdensome. God's not going to overwhelm you with 100 things to do on a to-do list. Once you find contentment, you're going to find a pace for your life that's so beautiful. You're not going to be team no sleep. You're going to be like, oh, no, I need my rest. You're not going to be overextending yourself. You're not going to be trying to people please everybody. You're not going to try to control narratives. You're not going to really care too much about people think about you. Like, you're going to be so happy with how God provides for you, and you're going to know that he's going to give you what you need. That also gives you rest. The question of when is it enough? What's your motive behind what you're doing? And where's your balance? I've learned that when we simplify things, my pastor said we're going to simplify everything and magnify what we simplify. And I've learned that when you do that, you find great balance. And it's going to help you rest. And I want to say this in a cheat code. And no one's ever going to tell you this. They're never going to tell you this. It's crazy, but one, like I said, rest is productivity. And if you really want to, like in an age where everybody's making content, here's a cheat code. If you want your content to be effective, relevant, and relatable, turn everything off and enjoy your life. Do life with people. I was telling a friend today, I said, listen, your homework assignment this week, enjoy your baby girl, enjoy your husband, be present with your family, enjoy all your friends. That's it. Forget all the tasks, forget all these deadlines that you had to submit as it pertains to we work together. I'm not telling her what to do for her own job. I'm saying with the work we have together. I said, this is your homework assignment because that is our pace right now. And I want you at the table healthy. And that, see, to me, people are afraid to talk like that because they feel, well, what if we're not working? We'll be okay. We'll be okay, I promise. I promise. Go home and love your family. Love your friends. Show up faithfully. Forget social media. Trust me. That's one of the things that I believe has made me really effective. I actually do real life with people. And sometimes not having a big to-do list is actually productivity. Rest.